Ambassador Sarah Chun stood at the window of the diplomatic transport ship Harmony, watching the space station grow larger as they approached. The station was huge, shaped like a spinning wheel in the darkness of space. It hung in orbit around a planet called Kepler 442b, far from any human or alien homeworld. This made it perfect for peace talks. Sarah had been Earth's top diplomat for 12 years. She had solved trade wars between Mars colonies and stopped conflicts over mining rights in the asteroid belt. But this was different. This time, she was not dealing with other humans. She was going to meet with 7 different alien species, all of them angry at humanity. The war had been going on for 3 years now. It started small, just border fights between human ships and the Zilani hegemony near some outer colonies. Nobody on Earth thought it would grow into something this big, but somehow the Zilani had convinced 6 other alien species to join them. Now humanity faced a coalition of 7 different alien races, all united against Earth. Captain Williams, the transport pilot, turned from his controls. Ambassador, we will dock in 20 minutes. The alien representatives are already waiting on the station. Sarah nodded and picked up her briefcase. Inside were the documents that would hopefully end this war. Earth was willing to give up some territory. They would pull back their military bases from 3 star systems. They would even pay compensation for damages caused during the fighting. It seemed fair to Sarah. Humans had only been traveling in space for 200 years. The aliens had been out here for thousands of years. Surely they could find a way to share the galaxy. The docking went smoothly. Sarah and her team of 6 human diplomats walked through the airlock into the station. The artificial gravity felt different here, lighter than Earth normal. The walls were a strange blue color that hurt human eyes if you looked too long. Everything smelled like ozone and something else Sarah could not name. A tall, thin alien with 4 arms waited for them. Its skin was gray and smooth like a dolphin. 2 large black eyes stared at Sarah without blinking. This was Ambassador Vithtal of the Nexari Republic. The Nexari were known for being fair and peaceful. Sarah felt hopeful seeing Vithtal here. Ambassador Chun, Vithtal said in perfect English. All the alien species had learned human languages years ago. Welcome to station. Peacekeeper? The other representatives are waiting in conference room 7. They walked through corridors filled with aliens from different species. Sarah recognized some of them from her briefing files. The insect-like Hyverath with their clicking sounds. The reptilian Sorok with their armored scales. The energy beings called Luminari who floated in special containment suits. All of them stopped talking when the humans passed by. All of them stared. Conference room 7 was enormous. The table in the center could seat 50 beings. Today, it held representatives from 7 alien species and now 6 humans. Sarah took her seat across from the alien delegation. The arrangement felt wrong to her. It should have been humans and Zilani facing each other, with the other species helping to make peace. Instead, it looked like a trial. Humans on one side, everyone else on the other. Admiral Kethver of the Zilani hegemony sat in the center of the alien delegation. He was massive even for a Zilani. His thick purple skin was covered in battle scars. His 4 eyes glowed red in the dim station lighting. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Ambassador Chun, Kethver said, we are here to discuss the terms of human surrender. Sarah blinked. Surrender? Admiral, I think there has been a misunderstanding. We are here for peace negotiations. Earth is prepared to make reasonable compromises to end this conflict. A sound like laughter came from the alien delegation. It was General Skavorth of the Sorok Empire. His forked tongue flicked out as he spoke. Reasonable? You call human expansion reasonable? In 200 years, you have claimed 43 star systems. You build military bases everywhere you go. You strip mine entire planets without asking permission from anyone. That is not accurate, Sarah replied calmly. Humans have colonized uninhabited systems. We have followed all established galactic law regarding territorial claims. Galactic law? This time it was Speaker Ezekti of the Hyverath Collective. The insect being's multiple eyes focused on Sarah. You mean the laws you humans ignore whenever they do not benefit you? The laws you break every time you find a new planet to exploit? Sarah felt her team shifting uncomfortably beside her. She had expected some hostility, but this was beyond anything in her worst-case scenarios. Speaker Shaky, humanity has never intentionally broken galactic law. If there have been misunderstandings, we are willing to discuss them and make corrections. Admiral Kethver raised one massive hand. Enough. We did not come here to listen to more human lies. We came here to present our terms. You will listen. He activated a holographic display above the table. It showed a map of human space. Red zones marked areas where humans would have to withdraw. Sarah counted quickly. The aliens wanted humans to abandon 12-star systems. Not just the military bases, but the civilian colonies too. Millions of people would have to be relocated. This is impossible, Sarah said. You are asking us to abandon colonies that have existed for decades. There are families there, children who were born on those worlds. That is not our concern, Kethver replied. Human expansion stops now. You will withdraw from all systems. Marked in red. You will dismantle every military installation beyond your home system. And you will accept protective custodianship under the Galactic Coalition. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Protective custodianship was what the galaxy imposed on species that could not govern themselves properly. It meant alien ships would patrol human space. Alien governors would oversee human colonies. Earth would become a vassal state. Dr. Martinez, Sarah's senior advisor, leaned forward. Admiral, surely you cannot be serious. Humanity has committed no crimes worthy of custodianship. We have been good neighbors to all species. Good neighbors? The voice belonged to Counselor Zack of the Aquatic Brotherhood. The being floated in a tank of water, speaking through a translation device. You call yourselves good neighbors while you militarize every system you enter? While you build warships faster than any species in galactic history? We build those ships for defense, Sarah said. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for a young species. Yes, Admiral Kethver said, and you have proven to be the most dangerous thing in it. Sarah looked around the table at the alien faces. Some showed anger, others showed fear. All of them showed determination. This was not a negotiation. This was a surrender demand. The aliens had already decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist as an independent species. I need to consult with my government, Sarah said finally. Of course you do, Kethver replied. You have exactly 72 hours. After that time, if Earth has not accepted our terms, the Coalition fleet will enforce them. Fleet? Sarah asked. For the first time since the meeting began, Admiral Kethver smiled. It was not a pleasant sight. Did you think we came here unprepared? There are currently 437 Coalition warships positioned throughout this sector. They are waiting for my signal. Sarah felt cold despite the station's warm temperature. 400 ships was more than the entire human navy. Earth had perhaps 60 warships capable of deep space combat. The colonies had local defense forces, but nothing that could stand against a fleet that size. You are threatening war, she said. No, Kethver replied. We are preventing one. Humanity has shown that it cannot be trusted to expand peacefully. You grow too fast, claim too much, build too many weapons. Left unchecked, you would eventually threaten every species in the galaxy. That is not true, Sarah said, but even as she spoke, she wondered if it was. Humans did expand aggressively. They did build a lot of military ships. From the outside, it might look threatening. 72 hours, Admiral Kethver repeated. Consider our offer carefully, Ambassador. Qian, it is the only one you will receive. The meeting ended without ceremony. The alien representatives filed out, leaving the humans alone in the massive conference room. Sarah stared at the holographic map still floating above the table. 12 star systems. 3 million human colonists. The independence of Earth itself? She activated her communication device to contact Earth. There had to be another way. There was always another way. Humans were good at finding solutions when their backs were against the wall, but as she waited for the connection to Earth, Sarah could not shake the feeling that this time was different. This time, the galaxy itself had decided that humanity was the problem. The emergency signal reached Earth 12 hours after the failed peace talks. Ambassador Sarah Chung's message was brief and terrifying. The aliens wanted complete surrender. They had 72 hours to accept or face invasion by over 400. Warships. President Maria Martinez sat in the Situation Room. Deep beneath the White House, around the Oval Table, sat the most powerful people on Earth. Defense. Secretary James Williams looked grim as he read the alien demands for the third time. General Patricia Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, was already calculating impossible odds. Director Lisa Park from Intelligence shook her head as she reviewed the fleet numbers. 437 ships, General Hayes said. Our entire Navy has 62 combat vessels. Even if we called back every ship from patrol duty, we would be outnumbered 7-1. What about the colonial defense forces? President Martinez asked. Maybe another 40 ships total, Williams replied. Most of them are just converted cargo vessels with basic weapons. They would not last 5 minutes against real warships. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat quietly at the far end of the table. She was the director of advanced research projects, and she looked very uncomfortable. President Martinez noticed her silence. Dr. Vasquez, you have been awfully quiet. Do you have any input on our military situation? Elena looked up, her dark eyes troubled. Madam President, there is something you need to know. Something that changes everything? The room fell silent. Elena rarely spoke during these meetings unless directly asked. When she did speak, it was usually about weapons research or experimental technology. 3 years ago, Elena began, right when the border conflicts with the Zilani started, our deep space monitoring stations detected massive fleet movements. Not just the Zilani, all 7 species that are now part of this coalition. They were moving ships, building new bases, coordinating their activities. You think they planned this from the beginning? Director Park asked. I think they have been planning this for much longer than 3 years, Elena replied. The evidence suggests this coalition has been forming for at least a decade. They have been watching us, studying us, preparing for this moment. Defense Secretary Williams leaned forward. Why did we not know about this intelligence? Elena took a deep breath. Because I was ordered to keep it classified at the highest level. Only 5 people on Earth knew about it. We used that intelligence to begin a special project. A project so secret that even most of you do not know it exists. President Martinez felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of project? Project Lazarus, Elena said quietly. The name meant nothing to most of the people in the room. But President Martinez remembered. 2 years ago, Elena had come to her with a proposal for an experimental weapons program. The details had been so classified that even the president was only told the basic outline. It was described as humanity's insurance policy. Elena, the president said carefully, please tell everyone what Project Lazarus is. Elena stood up and walked to the large screen at one end of the room. She entered a series of codes and classified symbols appeared across the display. Warning messages flashed red. This was information that could get people executed for treason if they shared. Project Lazarus is a weapon system, Elena began. But it is unlike any weapon ever built by humans or aliens. Most weapons destroy targets by applying force or energy. Lazarus does something different. It converts matter into exotic energy and uses that energy to create quantum tiers in spacetime itself. General Hayes frowned. I do not understand. What does that mean in practical terms? Elena pressed another button. A simulation appeared on the screen showing a planet. Watch, she said, in the simulation. A beam of energy struck the planet. But instead of exploding or burning, the planet simply ceased to exist. Where there had been a world with cities and oceans, there was now empty space. Not even debris remained. The target does not get destroyed, Elena explained. It gets unmade. The exotic energy breaks down the quantum structure that holds matter together. The space where the target existed becomes temporarily uninhabitable by any known form of matter or energy. The room was completely silent. President Martinez stared at the simulation in horror. How temporarily? Our calculations suggest approximately 1,000 years, Elena replied. Defense Secretary Williams stood up abruptly. You built a weapon that can erase planets? We built a weapon that can erase anything, Elena corrected. Planets, fleets, space stations. The size of the target does not matter. What matters is the amount of exotic energy we generate. Director Park was shaking her head. This is insane. If the aliens knew we had this capability, they would never have threatened us. That is exactly why they do not know, Elena said, and why it has been so classified. The moment the galaxy learns that humans possess this technology, we become the most feared species in known space. Every alien government would unite to destroy us immediately. President Martinez was beginning to understand the terrible choice they faced. So, our options are surrender to alien control or reveal that we have a weapon that makes us look like monsters. There is a third option, Elena said quietly. We could use it. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. General Hayes was the first to speak. Use it how? Against their fleets? Against their homeworlds, Elena replied. The Zilani are leading this coalition. If their homeworlds cease to exist, the coalition would collapse immediately. The moral weight of what Elena was suggesting hit everyone at once. She was talking about genocide on a planetary scale. 8 billion Zilani lived on their homeworld. Billions more lived on their other major colonies. Elena, President Martinez said slowly, you are talking about killing an entire species. I am talking about saving our own, Elena replied. Madame. President, if we surrender to this coalition, humanity becomes a slave species. Our children will grow up under alien rule. Our colonies will be dismantled. Earth itself will be governed by beings who see us as dangerous animals that need to be controlled. Defense Secretary Williams was studying the technical data on the screen. How does this weapon work? How do we deploy it? Elena brought up new displays showing ship schematics. We have converted one of our heavy cruisers, the EDS Prometheus, into a Lazarus platform. The exotic energy generator takes up most of the ship. We can target anything within approximately 50 light years. 50 light years? General Hayes calculated quickly. That covers most of known space. Yes, Elena confirmed. We could strike the Zilani homeworld from Earth orbit. The beam travels through manufactured wormholes, so there would be no warning. No time for evacuation, no chance for defense. President Martinez closed her eyes. In her worst nightmares, she had never imagined having to make a choice like this. Surrender humanity's freedom or commit genocide on a scale that would make humans the most hated species in the galaxy. How long would it take to charge this weapon? She asked. 6 hours for a planetary target, Elena replied. The exotic energy has to be built up slowly to avoid tearing apart our own ship. Director Park leaned forward. What about smaller targets? Could we use it against their fleets instead of their planets? Yes, but that would not solve our fundamental problem, Elena explained. If we destroy their fleets, they will just build more. Other species will join them. We would be fighting the entire galaxy eventually. But if we eliminate the Zilani homeworld, we send a message that cannot be ignored. The message being that humans are capable of casual genocide, Williams sighed grimly. The message being that humans should not be threatened, Elena corrected. Right now, the galaxy sees us as aggressive but manageable. They think they can control us with superior numbers. They need to learn that superior numbers do not matter when your enemy can erase your civilization from 50 light years away. President. Martinez looked around the table at her advisors. These were good people who had spent their careers trying to keep humanity safe. Now they were discussing the mass murder of an entire alien species. Are there any other options? She asked. Anything else we can try? General Hayes shook her head. With conventional weapons? No, we cannot fight 400 ships with 60. Even if we won, which is impossible, the aliens would just send more fleets. We could try to negotiate, Director Park suggested. Offer them something they want more than our surrender. They want our surrender because they fear us, Elena said. They have seen how fast we expand, how quickly we build ships, how aggressive we can be. They think we will eventually threaten them. Nothing we offer will change that fear. Defense Secretary Williams was still studying the technical specifications. Elena, if we use this weapon, what happens afterward? How does the galaxy react? When they learn what we did? They become very polite, Elena replied simply. Species that can erase planets tend to get a lot of respect, and fear, mostly fear. President Martinez stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of Washington, D.C., millions of people going about their daily lives, completely unaware that their government was debating whether to commit genocide to save their freedom. How certain are you that this weapon will work? She asked without turning around. We have tested it on asteroids and small moons, Elena replied. Ambassador Sarah Chun returned to the space station with Earth's official response. She had spent 18 hours traveling back to the neutral station while her government debated humanity's future. The document in her briefcase was not a surrender. It was a counter-proposal that she prayed would buy them more time. The conference room looked the same as before. The same alien representatives sat in the same seats. But something felt different. The aliens seemed more confident, more certain of their victory. Admiral Kethver barely looked up when Sarah entered. Ambassador Chun, the Zilani admiral said, in his grinding voice, I trust you bring Earth's acceptance of our terms. Sarah placed her briefcase on the table and opened it slowly. Admiral, Earth has carefully considered your proposal. We have prepared a counteroffer that we believe addresses your concerns while respecting human sovereignty. A sound like metal scraping against stone came from the alien delegation. It took Sarah a moment to realize it was laughter. General Skavorth of the Sarok Empire was the first to speak. Counteroffer? You think this is still a negotiation? Sarah ignored the interruption and pulled out the official document. Earth proposes a gradual withdrawal from disputed territories over a period of 5 years. We will reduce our military presence in border systems by 60%. We will establish joint monitoring stations with coalition oversight. We will also pay reparations for any damages caused during the recent conflicts. She looked around the table hopefully. The proposal had taken Earth's best diplomatic minds hours to create. It gave the aliens most of what they wanted while allowing humanity to maintain some dignity. Admiral Kethver did not even glance at the document. Your time for bargaining is past. You have 36 hours remaining to accept our original terms. Admiral, please, Sarah said. This proposal shows that Earth is willing to work with the coalition. We can find a peaceful solution that benefits everyone. The only peaceful solution is human submission, Speaker H. Zikti of the Hyvarath clicked. Your species has proven it cannot be trusted to expand responsibly. Sarah felt her patience beginning to crack. What have we done that is so terrible? We have colonized empty systems. We have followed galactic law. We have never attacked any species without provocation. You exist, Counselor Zack of the Aquatic Brotherhood said simply. Your very existence is a threat to galactic stability. You expand too fast. You build too many weapons. You ask too many questions and give too few answers. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. They were not angry at anything humanity had done. They were angry at what humanity was. The aliens had decided that humans were fundamentally incompatible with their vision of galactic order. I see, Sarah said quietly. She put the proposal back in her briefcase. Then this was never about territory or military bases. This was about eliminating humanity as an independent species. Finally, she understands, Admiral Kethver rumbled. Yes, Ambassador. This is about preventing a future war by ending human expansion now. Your species will be much happier under proper guidance. Sarah stood up. I need to inform my government of your position. You may use the communication facilities here, Kethver said, but do not attempt to leave the station. We would not want you to get lost in space. The threat was clear. Sarah was now a prisoner. The aliens were not going to let her return to Earth with intelligence about their true intentions. She nodded and left the conference room, her mind racing. 20 minutes later, Sarah activated the communication system in her assigned quarters. But instead of calling Earth directly, she used an emergency protocol. Her message was brief and coded, but its meaning was clear. The peace talks had failed completely. The aliens intended to destroy human independence regardless of any concessions. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbit, the EDS Prometheus floated in the shadow of the moon. From the outside, it looked like any other heavy cruiser in the Earth Defense Force. 300 meters long, bristling with conventional weapons and armor plating. But inside, the ship had been completely rebuilt around Project Lazarus. Captain James Torres stood on the bridge, reading the sealed orders that had just arrived. From Earth, he had commanded warships for 15 years, but he had never received orders like these. The authorization codes were genuine. The targets were confirmed, and the weapon was ready. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked in the ship's modified engine room, making final adjustments to the exotic energy generator. The device filled most of the ship's interior space. It looked like a massive metal sphere covered in cooling pipes and power conduits. Warning signs in 12 languages covered every surface. "Captain," Elena called through the intercom, "the Lazarus system is online and ready for charging sequence. We can reach firing readiness in 6 hours." "Understood, Doctor," Torres replied. "Maintain standby status until we receive final authorization." Torres looked at the tactical display, showing the positions of known coalition fleets. 437 ships spread across a dozen star systems, all moving toward human space. The largest concentration was near the Zalani homeworld, where over 100 ships waited. In reserve, his orders were specific. If any coalition forces attacked human colonies, he was to target the Zalani homeworld with the Lazarus weapon. Not their fleets, not their military bases, their planet. 8 billion lives would end in an instant, and the space where they died would remain empty for 1,000 years. Torres had been a soldier long enough to understand the logic. Destroying ships would only anger the aliens and prove that humans were as violent as they claimed. But erasing an entire planet would terrify them. It would show that humanity possessed power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Back on the space station, Sarah was discovering just how much the situation had changed. When she tried to access the station's database to review galactic law regarding territorial disputes, she found her access codes had been revoked. When she attempted to send a routine diplomatic message to the Earth Embassy on Proxima Centauri, the communication system rejected her request. A guard appeared at her door. It was a Nexari, the same species as Ambassador Vithtal, but this one wore military armor and carried an energy weapon. "Ambassador Chung," the guard said politely, "you are requested to remain in your quarters for your own safety." "Whose safety?" Sarah asked. "Everyone's," the guard replied. Sarah realized that the aliens were preparing for war while keeping her isolated. They did not want her to warn Earth about fleet movements or tactical preparations. She was a hostage now, useful only as long as the illusion of negotiations continued, but the aliens had made one mistake. They assumed that cutting off Sarah's communications would prevent Earth from learning about their intentions. They did not know about the coded message she had already sent. They did not know that Earth's military was already preparing for the worst. 6 hours passed slowly aboard the Prometheus. Dr. Vasquez monitored the exotic energy buildup while Captain Torres watched for any sign of coalition movement toward human colonies. The ship's crew worked in shifts, maintaining the weapon systems that none of them fully understood. The end came suddenly. Long-range sensors detected a massive energy signature from the direction of Kepler 438, where Earth maintained a small mining colony. The signature was consistent with multiple nuclear explosions. Someone had attacked the colony. "Captain," the sensor operator called out. I am reading debris clouds consistent with destroyed orbital facilities. The colony appears to have been completely destroyed. Torres felt his blood turn cold. Kepler 438c had a population of 50,000 people. Miners, engineers, their families. Children who had been born on that distant world and had never seen Earth. Confirm the attack, Torres ordered. I need to be absolutely certain. 10 minutes later, an automated distress beacon reached the Prometheus. The message was brief and terrifying. Coalition forces had arrived at Kepler 438 without warning. They had destroyed the orbital stations, the ground facilities, and every ship in the system. No survivors. Torres opened his sealed orders and entered the authorization codes. The computer accepted them and displayed a single line of text. Authorization code Lazarus 7. Target: Zilani Homeworld. Execute immediately. Dr. Vasquez, Torres said over the intercom. Begin final charging sequence. We are authorized to fire. Elena's voice came back shaky but determined. Understood, Captain. Charging to full power. We will be ready to fire. In 30 minutes. Torres turned to his communications officer. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we are proceeding with Lazarus 7. Target confirmed as Zilani Prime. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the exotic energy generator building power. Every person aboard the Prometheus understood what they were about to do. They were about to commit an act so terrible that it would change humanity forever, but they also understood why they had to do it. The Coalition had fired the first shot. They had murdered 50,000 innocent people to prove their power. Now they would learn what real power looked like. In the engine room, Elena watched the energy readings climb toward maximum. The exotic matter swirled inside containment fields that bent space and time around them. She had spent 3 years building this weapon, hoping it would never be used. Now she was about to activate it against a planet full of living beings. The Lazarus weapon fired at exactly 1432. Earth Standard Time. Captain Torres watched the energy readings spike as Dr. Vasquez activated the final sequence. The exotic matter generator reached critical mass and released its payload through a manufactured wormhole. The beam of destructive energy traveled 12 light-years in an instant. Emerging in the Zilani home system with the power of a dying star, on the bridge of the Prometheus, the crew watched their sensors track the weapon's path. The beam was invisible to normal detection, but the ship's special instruments could follow its quantum signature as it raced toward its target. Weapon fired successfully, Dr. Vasquez reported from the engine room. Energy beam is maintaining coherence. Estimated time to target impact is 7 minutes. Torres nodded grimly. 7 minutes for the beam to cross the Zilani system and reach their homeworld. 7 minutes before 8 billion beings ceased to exist. He had fired the weapon. But part of him still hoped something would go wrong. That the beam would miss or malfunction or somehow fail to reach its target, but the Lazarus weapon had been built too well. Dr. Vasquez had spent 3 years making sure it would work perfectly when humanity needed it most. Across the galaxy, the first signs of disaster began to appear. Deep space monitoring stations detected massive gravitational distortions in the Zilani system. Ships traveling through nearby hyperspace lanes felt their engines stutter as reality itself seemed to hiccup around them. Admiral Kethfer was aboard his flagship near the edge of Zilani space when the readings started coming in. His tactical officer, a young Zilani named Thekmor, stared at his instruments in confusion. "Admiral," Thekmor said, "I am detecting some kind of energy disturbance near the homeworld. The signatures are unlike anything in our database." Kethfer moved too. "Look at the readings himself." The numbers made no sense. The energy levels were off the scale, higher than anything produced by known weapons technology. "Are we detecting a stellar event? Some kind of solar flare?" "No, sir," Thekmor replied. "The energy is not coming from our sun. It appears to be targeted at the planet itself." Before Kethfer could respond, the readings spiked beyond measurement. Then suddenly they dropped to 0. Complete silence from the direction of the Zilani homeworld. Thekmor, Kethver said slowly. Attempt to contact Planetary Command. The young officer worked at his station for several minutes, trying every communication channel and emergency frequency. Finally, he looked up with fear in his 4 eyes. Admiral, I cannot reach anyone on the homeworld. All communication networks are silent. Even the automated navigation beacons have stopped transmitting. Kethver felt cold dread growing in his chest. Set course for home immediately, maximum speed. It took the flagship 6 hours to reach the Zilani home system. When they dropped out of hyperspace, Admiral Kethver and his crew discovered something that their minds could barely process. Where the Zilani homeworld had existed for millions of years, there was now empty space. Not debris from an explosion. Not radioactive clouds from nuclear bombardment. Nothing at all. The planet had simply vanished, leaving behind a sphere of twisted space-time that hurt to look at directly. Impossible, Beckmore whispered. Planets do not just disappear. But they had sensors and they had eyes, and both told them the same terrible truth. Their homeworld was gone. 8 billion Zilani had died in an instant, erased from existence so completely that not even atoms remained. Other ships began arriving in the system. Cargo vessels returning from trade runs. Military patrols coming back from border duty. Tourist ships full of Zilani citizens who had been visiting other worlds. All of them found the same impossible sight. The effect was not limited to the Zilani system. Throughout the galaxy, every species with psychic sensitivity felt the moment when 8 billion minds suddenly stopped existing. The Hyverath Collective, with their shared consciousness, experienced the deaths like a physical blow. Several of their queens collapsed from the psychic shock. The Luminari, beings of pure energy themselves, felt the quantum destruction of so much organized matter like a scream across subspace. Their homeworld's energy matrices flickered and dimmed as they struggled to process what had happened. Even species without psychic abilities noticed the disturbance. Navigation computers throughout the galaxy reported brief malfunctions as the quantum destruction of an entire planet sent ripples through the fabric of space itself. Back on the space station where the peace talks had failed, Ambassador Sarah Chun felt the effects too. She had been trying to sleep when a wave of dizziness and nausea hit her. For just a moment, she felt like something terrible had happened somewhere in the universe. Something that should not have been possible. An hour later, her Nexari guard appeared at her door. But instead of the calm professionalism she had seen before, the alien looked terrified. Ambassador Chun, the guard said, you are requested in the main communication center immediately. Sarah followed the guard through corridors filled with panicking aliens. She could hear shouting in a dozen different languages. Emergency alarms were sounding throughout the station. Whatever had happened, it was big enough to shake the confidence of 7 different species. The communication center was chaos. Alien technicians worked frantically at their stations while officers shouted orders. In the center of the room, a massive holographic display showed stellar maps with dozens of red warning symbols. Ambassador Vithtal of the Nexari turned when Sarah entered. The normally calm diplomat looked shaken to his core. Ambassador Chun, Vithtal said, we need to speak with your government immediately. Something has happened. Something impossible. What kind of something? Sarah asked, though she was beginning to suspect she already knew, before Vithtal could answer. Admiral Keffer's voice came through the communication system. The Zilani commander was broadcasting from his flagship, and his voice carried a horror that Sarah had never heard before. Coalition Command, this is Admiral Kethver reporting from the former location of Zilani Prime. The planet is gone. Completely gone. 8 billion of my people have been murdered by some kind of weapon that should not exist. The communication center fell silent. Sarah felt her heart racing as she realized what had happened. Earth had used the Lazarus weapon. The superweapon that Dr. Vasquez had described was real, and they had just used it to erase an entire planet. Admiral, Vithtal said into his communicator, please clarify your report. Are you saying the planet was destroyed? I am saying the planet no longer exists, Kethver replied. There's no debris, no radiation, no trace that it was ever here. The space where my homeworld existed has been ... changed somehow. Our ships cannot even approach the area without suffering navigation. Failures. General Scavorth of the Sorak Empire appeared on another communication channel. This is impossible. No weapon can simply erase a planet. Tell that to the 8 billion Zilani who are no longer alive, Kethver said bitterly. Sarah realized that every alien in the communication center was now staring at her. They had just learned that humans possessed a weapon beyond their understanding. A weapon that could erase planets without leaving any trace. Ambassador Chun, Viftal said quietly, did your government do this? Sarah thought about lying. She thought about claiming ignorance or demanding proof. But she could see in the aliens' eyes that they already knew the truth. The timing was too convenient. The humans had been given an ultimatum, and now the species leading that ultimatum had lost their homeworld. The Zilani destroyed one of our colonies, Sarah said simply. 50,000 innocent people died in that attack. My government responded. Accordingly? Speaker H. Zikti of the Hyvarath had joined the communication. You call genocide an appropriate response to a military action? I call it the price of murdering human children, Sarah replied. She was surprised by the coldness in her own voice. 3 days ago, she would have been horrified by what Earth had done. Now, surrounded by aliens who had planned humanity's destruction, she felt only grim satisfaction. Admiral Kethver's voice cut through the arguing. Coalition forces, this is a general recall order. All ships are to withdraw from human space. Immediately. Do not engage human vessels under any circumstances. We are dealing with a species that possesses weapons beyond our comprehension. Admiral, General Scavorth protested, we cannot let this attack go unanswered. If we withdraw now, we look weak. If we continue this war, Kethver replied, we will all be dead. The humans just demonstrated that they can erase our homeworlds from anywhere in the galaxy. How do we fight an enemy that can kill billions of our people without even leaving their own star system? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. For the first time since the crisis began, the aliens were forced to confront the possibility that they had made a terrible mistake. They had threatened a species that possessed the power to unmake planets. Sarah watched the alien officers argue among themselves. Some wanted to continue the war despite the risks. Others demanded immediate withdrawal. A few suggested trying to negotiate a ceasefire before humanity decided to target more planets, but the damage was already done. The coalition had learned that humanity was not the helpless young species they had believed. Humans had been carrying the power to destroy civilizations, and they had hidden. 6 months after the Zilani homeworld vanished, Ambassador Sarah Chun sat in the same conference room where she had once begged for reasonable terms. But everything had changed. The table that had once held 7 alien species united against humanity now hosted desperate representatives seeking peace with Earth. Sarah no longer carried proposals for compromise. Instead, she reviewed non-aggression pacts that alien governments were eager to sign. The briefcase that had once held humanity's surrender terms now contained documents that would reshape the galaxy's power structure. The first to arrive was Ambassador Vithtal of the Nexari Republic, the 4-armed being that had once looked at humans with barely hidden contempt now approached Sarah with obvious respect and fear. Ambassador Chun, Vithtal said carefully, the Nexari Republic wishes to formalize our peaceful intentions toward humanity. We have prepared a comprehensive non-aggression treaty for your consideration. Sarah looked at the document briefly. It offered everything the Nexari had once demanded from humans. Shared technology, open borders, favorable trade agreements. 6 months ago, Earth would have been grateful for such generous terms. Now they were the minimum price for safety. The terms are acceptable, Sarah said simply. Earth will sign this agreement, provided the Nexari understand that any hostile action against human colonies will be met with immediate response. Vithtal's large black eyes showed understanding. Everyone knew what immediate response meant. Now it meant planets could disappear without warning. It meant species could be erased from existence with no chance to surrender or negotiate. General Skavorth of the Saurak Empire entered next. The reptilian warrior who had once mocked human military capabilities now moved with the careful respect of someone approaching a sleeping predator. His delegation carried gifts, rare metals, advanced technologies, star charts of unexplored regions. Ambassador Chun, Skavorth said, his forked tongue flicking nervously, the Saurak Empire offers these tokens of friendship. We wish to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth and resolve any misunderstandings between our peoples. Sarah accepted the gifts with a polite nod. The Saurak were offering humanity access to 30 star systems that they had previously claimed as their exclusive territory. It was a massive concession from a species that had never voluntarily shared anything. Earth appreciates the Empire's generosity, Sarah replied. We look forward to peaceful cooperation in the future. The pattern continued throughout the day. Species after species arrived with offerings of friendship and alliance. The Hyvarath Collective offered to share their biotechnology research. The Aquatic Brotherhood provided detailed maps of water-rich worlds perfect for human colonization. Even smaller species that had never been part of the original coalition sent representatives with gifts and proposals, but the most important meeting came at the end of the day. Admiral Kethfer entered the conference room alone, without guards or advisors. The massive Zelani looked older than when Sarah had first met him. His 4 eyes had lost their aggressive glow. The warrior who had once threatened humanity with overwhelming force now carried himself like a beaten enemy. Ambassador Chun, Kethfer said quietly, I come to discuss the future of my people. Sarah gestured to a seat across from her. The same seat where Kethfer had delivered humanity's ultimatum 6 months ago. The irony was not lost on either of them. What future do the Zelani have? Sarah asked. It was not a cruel question. With their homeworld gone and 8 billion of their people dead, the surviving Zelani faced an uncertain existence. We have 12 colony worlds with a total population of 2 billion, Kethfer replied. Our government has collapsed. Our military is scattered. Many of my people believe we deserve extinction for what we tried to do to humanity. Sarah studied the alien admiral. She had expected hatred or defiance. Instead, she saw something she had never thought possible from a Zelani. She saw guilt. And what do you believe, Admiral? She asked. Kethfer was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone who had seen his entire civilization shattered in an instant. I believe we made a terrible mistake, he said. We saw humanity's rapid expansion and assumed it meant you were reckless and aggressive. We never considered that you might be expanding quickly because you were afraid. We never thought that a young species might build weapons not for conquest, but for survival. You were right about one thing, Sarah said. Humanity is dangerous. We have proven that beyond any doubt. Yes, Kethfer agreed. But you are dangerous to those who threaten you. We threatened you, and we paid the price. The question now is, what happens to those who do not threaten you? Sarah opened another document from her briefcase. Earth is prepared to offer the surviving Zelani worlds protected status. You would maintain local autonomy while accepting human oversight of your military and foreign policy. In exchange, Earth guarantees your security against any species that might try to exploit your weakened state. It was essentially the same protective custodianship that the Coalition had once tried to impose on humanity, but now the roles were reversed. The Zelani would become humanity's first client species. Protected but subordinate, Kethfer read the proposal carefully. The terms are more generous than we have any right to expect, he said finally. My people accept Earth's protection. As the meetings concluded, Sarah walked to the observation deck of the space station. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see ships from a dozen different species docked at the station's ports. All of them had come to pay tribute to humanity's new position in the galaxy. Dr. Elena Vasquez joined her at the window. The weapons scientist had become something of a celebrity among human diplomatic circles. The woman who had built the most terrible weapon in galactic history was now advising on its political implications, Any regrets? Elena asked quietly. Sarah considered the question. 8 billion Zelani had died because of the weapon Elena created. Humanity had committed genocide on a scale that would be remembered for millennia. But those deaths had also secured humanity's future among the stars. I regret that it was necessary, Sarah said finally. But I cannot regret that we survived. Elena nodded. The galaxy is a different place now. Every species knows that threatening Earth means facing extinction. But they also know that species who leave us alone have nothing to fear from us. Is that enough? Sarah asked. To be feared but not hated. It is better than being weak and enslaved, Elena replied. 6 months ago, the galaxy was preparing to divide up human space among themselves. Now they compete to offer us the best deals for peaceful cooperation. Through the window, Sarah could see construction ships beginning work on humanity's first colony in former Zelani space. The system had been empty since its original inhabitants disappeared, but now human engineers were building new settlements among the outer planets. The twisted void where the Zelani homeworld had existed remained untouchable. Ships could not approach it without suffering navigation failures. Sensors could not penetrate its altered spacetime. It would remain as a monument to humanity's power for the next 1,000 years, a constant reminder to the galaxy of what happened. To species that pushed Earth too far. Other construction projects were beginning throughout human space. The Sorok had shared the locations of rich mining worlds. The Nexari had provided advanced manufacturing technologies. The Hyverath offered biological enhancements that could help humans adapt to hostile environments. All of it came freely. Offered by species desperate to prove their friendship with Earth, the galaxy that had once seen humans as dangerous upstarts now competed to be humanity's most valuable partner. What happens next? Elena asked. Sarah smiled, but it was not a particularly warm expression. Next, we build, we expand. We explore. And we make sure that no species ever again mistakes our desire for peace as a sign of weakness. In the distance, she could see the running lights of the EDS Prometheus as it departed the station. The ship that had carried humanity's most terrible weapon was now being converted back to a normal cruiser. The Lazarus system had been removed and stored in a classified facility on Earth. But every species in the galaxy knew that the weapon still existed. They knew that Earth could build more of them if necessary. They knew that humanity possessed the power to erase planets, and the willingness to use that power when threatened. The peace talks that Sarah had wanted so desperately 6 months ago were now offered freely by every major government in the galaxy. Treaties, alliances, trade agreements, territorial concessions, all presented with eager smiles and nervous courtesy. Humanity no longer needed to ask permission to exist among the stars. They had announced their arrival in the galaxy with the destruction of an entire world. Now every species that met them understood a simple truth. Humans could be valuable friends or terrifying enemies, but they would never again be anyone's subjects. As Sarah watched the construction ships begin their work on humanity's newest colony, she reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, she had begged for the right to keep 12-star systems. Now the galaxy was offering humanity access to hundreds of worlds, all in the hope of staying on Earth's good side. The species from Sol had wanted peace talks. When those failed,